Salams, friends of BookBytes. September has had so many beautiful literary celebrations, and I'm bringing some of it right onto BookBytes this evening. We've just recently had the launch of the newest novel, Love, Mary Kill by Zukiswa Wanner. Zukiswa is not somebody who needs great sort of introduction to the literary scene. She's a darling of the African continent in terms of the literary scene, the activist scene, and it's a real pleasure to be able to speak about her latest novel, which is just being launched around the country, Love, Mary Kill. Now, this is a racing novel. It's something that'll have you turning the pages and thinking, how far would you go for love? Zukiswa Wanner is a real writing icon, and it shows in this work. She's written numerous novels, journals, children's books, nonfiction, essays, and stories in various collections. She has many accolades, including being selected among 2020's New African 100 Most Influential Africans and Brittle Paper's Literary Person of the Year. She's been translated, her work has been translated in various languages across the continent, and she's given several keynote addresses. She's also rejected some major awards purely on a political basis in comment on her huge sort of social consciousness and activism around displaced, dehumanized peoples, the cause of Palestine, and other spaces around the world. Welcome to BookBytes, Zukiswa. It's wonderful to have this opportunity again to chat to you about this very enjoyable, very memorable story. Congratulations on a successful novel once again. And let's chat about Love, Mary Kill. Welcome to BookBytes.
Thank you so much, Shafnas, for hosting me. I'm trying to figure out whether we still have cam and mic connection, but I'm honored that I could be hosted on your platform on BookBytes.
Well, it's always a wonderful opportunity. I'm concerned that I can't see you, but as long as we can hear you, we're going to have a great discussion this evening about the new novel. Tell us right off the cuff, how far would you go for love? Let's chat about that right off. Love, Mary Kill. How far would you go for love? Hi, Zukiswa. Studio, I think we lost the guest. I'm not sure if she's trying to reconnect again. So I recently just came back from Durban, where we launched Love, Mary Kill. And I've had the opportunity to chat with Zukiswa. So I really want to get into the details around this novel and beautiful kind of way in which there's this interaction with characters in a suburban setting, in a seemingly ordinary setting. The extraordinary is really brought alive. So we have Zukiswa back online. Zukiswa, right off, how far would you go for love? Because this really is the way in which you test your characters to the max.
Do you have me back now?
I can hear you now. Shall I repeat my question?
You can hear me. Can you see me? Yeah.
I can hear you perfectly. So back to where we were. The big story is, how far would you go for love through your characters, as it were?
It says to me, well, okay. Me, I don't think I'd go very far, but clearly the characters take a whole lot of distance for love. It's a space I wouldn't go to. Also, I really absolutely love your kafir And yeah, thank you. And yeah,
I have to give
free Palestine till it's better.
I have to give full credit to BB Scarves for honoring us with the kafia this evening. It's sponsored by a local Johannesburg-based designer, so I'm glad that you liked it. Back to the novel, though. I really enjoyed the interactions of your characters, the sort of unassuming way in which Akani meets Awami, and also just learning that they come from such different backgrounds. A lot of how where they come from informs their relationships. Talk to us about some of that.
Yeah. Okay. Firstly, why hasn't Baby Scarves actually given me a scarf? I'm kind of like very personally offended about that. But okay, let's go to Akane and Owami. Yeah, no, they come from different backgrounds, but they have that love. They meet up, and it's something they didn't expect. But I always think this is what happens in relationships. Sometimes you meet people you don't expect to meet, and you love people from spaces you don't expect to be in. And that's what happens.
I enjoyed that you situate your story in suburban Johannesburg, and there's this feeling that it's just ordinary Joburg life. They're making their lives together. They in their marriages. Nothing generally seems out of place. Everyone's just making do. But there's almost this clash of two people coming together when they least expect it. It's such an explosive kind of coming together that I think it even takes their partners by surprise. And it makes so much of sense for them. Let's talk about Akani because he does so much of the emotional labor in his relationships, and Awami, who's holding it all together for everyone in her life as well.
I think what I was trying to do with that is just really to highlight how the personal is political, uh, chefs. So there is, these are ordinary people having ordinary lives, but we're also dealing with the fact that they have partners that dealing with like things like insurance, you know, which is how Owami finds out about the nonsense in her particular relationship with her husband. They have, uh, you know, they're dealing with other nonsense in their personal lives. So one of the things that I had to do, that I inserted when I was writing, was, and I told you this when we had a conversation in KZN last week, is how in Akani's relationship and in his business dealings, he actually has to deal with like some guys were saying to him, well, if you don't do this, we will, you will not be able to work, whatever. If you don't give us like X amount of money, you can't work in this city. And the crazy thing is, there are people who are dealing with this in our country. So the personal, even when it doesn't look like it, is so political.
I think this is what makes the characters so memorable because you can challenges that come through. You say on the back of the book, in South Africa, homicides are sometimes for insurance, but sometimes the insurance is just an added bonus. Um, in relationships, we are brought to a very sort of brought to the edge of what we're capable of as human beings, you know. And your characters show that you're able to take your characters. Maybe fiction allows that kind of exploring your characters to such a deep and dark kind of degree. But talk to us about developing these characters. As much as you say, yes, there's the political in the personal, but what does it take to dig deep, to be vulnerable about characters of this nature?
Mm. I would say we don't nearly talk because I write fiction and nonfiction. We don't nearly talk about how writing fiction is. We can say about our characters the things that we can't say in nonfiction because somebody's gonna sue us, you know. So we can run away with a certain narrative in fiction that we can't nearly do in nonfiction. So, and in that case, then there is a liberation that we get, and we 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 like our characters then allow us to run away in a way that you could never ever imagine. You do that with Darlings of Durban, hey, because I can say, as a matter of fact, that when I read Darlings of Durban, there were people like, I was like, yeah, no, actually, as a matter of fact, I know this person and stuff. But you could run away with it because it's fiction, you know? It's not something that you could have done in nonfiction.
I guess you're right. I think fiction is a little more forgiving maybe, because it allows you those stretching those parameters. You can reveal the underbelly of the city and the weaknesses and the darknesses of relationships without anyone taking offense, because it's just seen as entertainment. You know, Love Mary Kill does that. It makes some really deep commentary, but just being entertaining, so entertaining. There's also this idea of expectations versus reality, right? Your characters have certain expectations of their lives, and the reality that prevails is very different. So even the spouses in these relationships are like almost shocked when things fall apart, and they want to regain control in some way. So let's talk about the dark side of relationships, the expectations that get bust, the reality that gives this kind of shocker when people come to realize, are we really not that present in our relationships?
Yeah, I think we don't nearly talk about that, you know? I was having a conversation with somebody, with a journalist who's also married. And and I was saying to and he was saying to me, yeah, but I could see myself in this. And I'm like, it disturbs me that you could see yourself in this. But it is also what it is, because why aren't we having these conversations with our partners, you know, about, okay, this thing is becoming boring, guy or woman, let's move on to other stuff. Let's go out, let's be more exciting and stuff. But that's actually what's happening. And in the generation of our parents, what used to happen when that happened is the father would go out and deal with, like, have a mistress, and the mother would be frustrated and fight and just yell at the kids, yell at the domestic workers, and so forth and so on. Now, what happens is people get divorced. People are like, okay, all right, you did not meet my expectations, so for take, go. We don't want to do this. And it's different. Uh, and it's essentially that there is no conversation. When you get married, you need to converse. Are we still okay? Where are we going? How are we going? Why are we going?
Those conversations are definitely important.
Those conversations are
Definitely
definitely important. Uh,
there's so much of codependence in the relationships, and then betrayal comes as a surprise in all of that, with people just somehow struggling to survive. And that's why I enjoyed that situating your story in suburban Joburg is just so like normal, that so many people can identify with. But the big thing about the marital relationship is how much of effort are we putting in, to really communicate and to live through our traumas, but also to make better relationships for the next generation. You also talk about, safe spaces, uncles to watch out for philandering, both philandering spouses, but also the pedophile uncles that every girl is taught not, that, there's some parents who just know I wouldn't leave my children alone with certain people. And this is another conversation I think that needs to be had. It comes through very lightly in the conversation with, Awami is aware. But we all grow up aware that there are spaces and people that are not safe. Let's talk about some of that.
I think, yeah, as I mentioned when we're chatting, it's something that we're nearly talking enough of. And it's how women have been conditionalized to protect themselves. So they're not equal citizens in in any country, despite the fact that we're told we're equal citizens. So constantly we're worried about, oh, if I'm on a road and I see men, do I need to cross the road because men are going to sexually harass me? You know, hey, how you doing? Yeah, fine. Oh, you're not answering. You think you're pretty. I don't want you. You know, that type of thing. And I think that's part of the reason why, that whole trip that's been going on social media of men obey and women have been selecting bear is because a bear would not sexually harass a woman. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
there is that
It's a
difference.
big deal. Because it brings us back to question, are we even equal citizens within the space of a relationship, a romantic relationship, a marriage? And this is something time immemorial that needs, we need to go back, but we also need to start to question our rights and responsibilities within the marriage space. So we talk about till death do us part. The ideal is for marriages to work for the long term. Um, how do we overcome the trauma of the past so that we can make better relationships going forward?
I think too much responsibility is placed on women, you know, and we need to ensure that like actually men need to come to the table because every time it's like, oh, how are women doing this, how are, why you how you ensuring that your son, your husband, your whatever does this, you know but I think it's not fair, actually. You know, constantly women are being told to hold half the sky, more than half the sky, actually, and we don't need to be holding more than half the sky. Um, when a crisis happens, think about it. Even in your family, Shafinas, constantly, despite the fact that there is the belief that the patriarchy works. Is it not us who are told to go and look after our mothers, our aunts, our uncles constantly? It's women who are asked to be like the nurses, the care workers. So we need to have that conversation. I sometimes feel I had a conversation with one of my friends, and I said I sometimes feel that as a country, as South Africa, we just need to close our borders for like a year or two and have a conversation about the South Africa that we want and, slaughter and just plant ourselves and try to heal because we are a damaged country. We are violent. We are not nice to each other as we should be. There's work to do.
We still seem to be in survival mode in so many ways.
Survival
But I'm so
mode.
grateful for your writing and for an entertaining novel like Love, Mary Kill that's seemingly set in an ordinary environment, a simple suburban environment, and yet it's making so much of social commentary through your characters, very memorable characters, very deeply thought out characters. I really enjoyed Love, Mary Kill, and I know you're going to have a great success as you launch over the next couple of weeks and months, not just in South Africa, but beyond into the continent. From BookBytes, we want to wish you everything of the best. I think it was fantastic just having this opportunity to hear some of your thoughts on the topic, on the themes, and I hope it's going to get people reading because aside from the social commentary, it was just hugely fun to read this book. You have such a knack for storytelling, and I'm a huge fan, and I know that there are many of my audience that are a huge fan of your work. So we look forward to more, but right now we're going to just be biting into chunks of Love, Mary Kill and enjoying it. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you for hosting me, chefs. It has been lovely chatting to you. It was lovely seeing you, obviously, in Durban and being in engagement with you. And yeah,
Well, I look
free
forward to many
Palestine
more
to you. Well, I look
conversations
forward
with
to
you.
many more conversations.
Free Palestine, inshallah, in our lifetime. And so, with that, we had the wonderful opportunity of speaking to Zukiswa Wanner, a well known local, well loved local author, about her latest book, Love, Mary Kill. There's launches going on all around the country right now. Get yourself a copy. This is a beautiful book. It makes the commentary, but it's also just a truly enjoyable book with memorable characters. You won't regret it. It makes the perfect gift. Book clubs, I can highly recommend this book as well because we've been waiting for Zukizwa to come up with a novel for a very long time, and it's finally here. Um, this is the time to enjoy it. With that, it's it from us on Book Bites this weekend, and there's a lot more coming up for the rest of September, for the rest of the season, in fact. We look forward to sharing more beautiful reads with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.